what are supplements that everybody should have in their stack on average, do you think? What are the supplements that really work?
Okay. So I kind of like branch these into like tiers, right? So my Mount Rushmore of supplements would be creatine monohydrate would be number one.
Dosage, frequency?
5 grams a day. There's maybe evidence that like 10 or even maybe a little bit more has cognitive benefits.
Tim Ferriss has been talking about that.
Yeah. So it's very safe. I mean, there are people who have been hand-wringing about creatine for a long time. And the worst thing that you can say about it is people say, well, it causes hair loss. No, there was a single study in 2009 that showed creatine supplementation increased DHT. That is not the same thing as showing hair loss. DHT is a marker and that is a mechanism. Now, that's never been replicated and they didn't show a viable mechanism by which it does it because their testosterone levels didn't change, which is the precursor. And then the product after DHT didn't change. So either creatine is having some direct effect on this enzyme, or this is a data artifact that has not been replicated. I tend to lean towards the latter. So creatine monohydrate increases lean mass, improves strength, improves performance, improves cognitive performance. It has been shown to have a similar effect on depression as SSRIs. I'm not saying for people to use creatine.
Come off your SSRIs and switch it out for creatine.
I'm just saying that this seems to have some really ubiquitous benefits. So, and even like some of the more disease states, we're starting to see some benefits for creatine supplementation. So I'm not saying everybody should be on it, but it is a low cost, high yield supplement that is very safe. And we're not talking about a couple studies. We are talking about thousands of studies done over decades in labs all over the world. I am very confident. Now, caffeine. Caffeine is the original nootropic. It is the original performance enhancer. And if you look at the benefits of caffeine, increases cognitive performance, increases exercise performance. Downsides, negatively impacts sleep. So if you're going to take it, do it early in the day, preferably, unless you've got a podcast.
Yeah. You know what? One of the wildest things is Whoop release a aggregated set of their data at the end of each year. And on Whoop, you can track behaviors and it will correlate those behaviors with outcomes that you get, HRV, resting heart rate, sleep quality, duration, blah, blah, blah. One of the best predictors of good recovery and sleep was caffeine.
Interesting. Yeah, so that's interesting.
Tens of thousands of people.
That's interesting. So this could be a case where, you know, there's confounding variables of perhaps people who are taking in more caffeine or exercising harder, and that's helping them get better sleep, right?
That's interesting.
So there's obviously we know based on the mechanistic human randomized control trials that caffeine negatively impacts sleep.
I wonder, what about, is there a potential that you've got kind of like a healthy user bias here with people that are doing Whoop? They probably know that you've got a 9-hour half-life for caffeine. So maybe they're pumping a couple in a morning, and then by the time that they get to an evening time, that adenosine is...
Yeah, I mean, I think what's probably the most likely outcome is some sort of healthy user bias with people who are using wearables, also taking a lot of caffeine, probably more likely to exercise and have other healthy lifestyle behaviors.
But why would all of the people that are using Whoop are using Whoop? Like, it's interesting. It's something I might try and reach out to the guys and get a little bit more data, and I could send that to you. Yeah. All right, so creatine, caffeine. For caffeine, couple of questions. First off, there's no real like optimal dosage, but what do you think about when it comes to dosage? What do you think about when it comes to timing? And what do you think about when it comes to dependency?
So obviously earlier in the day is going to be better for sleep based on what we know. As far as dosage, I mean, you get some anti-fatigue benefits like 50, 100 milligrams. You start to get the performance benefits once you get up around 200-300 milligrams of caffeine, like for exercise. Strength benefits, like acute strength benefits, are more like 300 to 600 milligrams of caffeine.
Christ.
So, I mean, I'm a pretty big fan of caffeine, and before the meet on Saturday, I'll probably have about a nice 600 milligram shot right at the beginning, and I'll probably have a 200 milligram boost, which I'm lifting in prime time at 6 p.m. So I probably won't be sleeping real great that night, but that's okay. It's just one night. So yeah, for the more like standout kind of performance benefits, you know, you got to get a little bit higher dosage.
Dependency?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely get, I mean, there are absolutely caffeine withdrawal symptoms. I go through them whenever I start tapering off for a meat, because I'll usually taper down to, I used to completely cut it cold turkey, and I just found that that was intolerable. So I go down to about 100 milligrams a day, because actually the other thing people don't realize, and I found, I'm like, when I cut out caffeine completely, I started like feeling like aches and pains and stuff. It's actually a slight analgesic. It has a slight analgesic effect. And I started getting all these like feeling, why am I like having like back pain that I haven't had before? There's other things. And when I just went down to kind of like 100 milligrams a day to kind of like just maintain, I noticed that stuff went away.
All right. Creatine, caffeine.
One other thing to add, you can completely reset your caffeine tolerance in about a week if you go cold turkey, but you're going to feel pretty miserable for a couple of days. I mean, I thought it was a placebo thing, and then I did it, and I was like, why does my head hurt? And why am I so freaking tired? And then my ex was like, you haven't had caffeine in 2 days. Duh. I'm like, oh yeah, duh. Creatine, caffeine, whey protein, tasty, relatively cheap, soluble, been shown to improve body composition numerous times. It's not magic. It's just a very tasty, kind of ubiquitous form of protein that's highly bioavailable. So I put it on my Mount Rushmore.
Isolate, concentrate.
Concentrate's perfectly fine. In fact, there may be some benefits to concentrate in that it has some of the components that positively influence glutathione and antioxidant status. But a lot of people don't tolerate a pure concentrate well, because there's quite a bit of lactose in it. And some people have sensitivities to the lactalbumins in whey. A whey isolate is going to basically eliminate the lactose. So if you have any kind of lactose sensitivity, most people tolerate whey isolate. Like my company, Outward Nutrition, the protein we sell is a whey isolate. People are like, is that because it's more anabolic than concentrate? I'm like, no, we just want to make sure that almost anybody could use our protein. It is more expensive. Typically mix is better too. So there's trade-offs. Whey concentrate's cheaper, but there's more carbs and fats and more lactose. If you don't tolerate either of those well, then a whey hydrolysate will probably work for you, which is basically pre-digested whey. So they've chopped up the lactalbumin.
Tastes
It does not taste very good, and it's expensive, but it will work well for somebody who can't tolerate the lactalbumins in whey. And then we go down to like my tier 2, which is stuff that I feel strongly is beneficial, but I just want to see like more research done over a greater period of time. And those would be things like rhodiola rosea, things like beta-alanine, citrulline malate, ginseng actually has quite a bit of good research on it.
Just naming the ingredient profile of Newtonic here.
There
we are. Yeah, there it is. That's what we're here for, baby. That's what we're here for. Beta-alanine.
Ashwagandha. Ashwagandha, another one.
So beta-alanine, everyone went crazy for that when Matt Fraser said on Rogan that was, maybe it was Rogan or something else. He basically retired from CrossFit and said that I think he was taking like some absurd amount of beta-alanine and attributed a lot of his sort of increased work capacity acutely to that. Was citrulline malate in there? Was that one of the ones you just said?
Yeah.
Yeah, why?
Fatigue resistance. It also seems to... There's some studies suggesting it may stimulate mTOR, so there may be a small anabolic effect. We don't know if that's like independent of other things that stimulate mTOR, but it seems to improve performance and improve fatigue resistance.
Just going through what we went through there, the rhodiola, the ginseng, the citrulline, beta-alanine, and the ashwagandha. Have you got dosages that you prefer for yourself with those?
Yeah, so rhodiola, it seems like anywhere from like 150 milligrams to 450 milligrams. And then after that, it actually seems to be like a kind
U-shaped
of
curve.
Tapering off of
N-shaped curve.
Yeah. You know, actually, even as low as 50 milligrams, there might be some benefits as well. But if you want like there's some studies that show like actual decreased fatigue and actually decreased perception of fatigue as well as like cognition benefits. And it seems to be like a very, what we call an adaptogen. Ashwagandha is kind of like that as well. So it kind of, it puts you back to center, for lack of a better term. But yeah, some good data on fatigue resistance for that. Ashwagandha, oh man, dosage. Why did it escape my mind just now? I think that's actually about 150 to 300 milligrams, 300 to 600 milligrams for ashwagandha. That's in our recovery product. And downside to that is doesn't mix super well. When you mix up our recovery product, it tastes great, but it kind of looks like beach water a little bit because of the sediment. But the ashwagandha, it's interesting because I'm pretty convinced because there's been quite a few studies now showing reliably it increases strength, lean mass, and decreases cortisol and modestly elevates testosterone. But the effects on cortisol and testosterone would not be enough to show those lean mass benefits. So my one hesitation is I kind of want to know what the fucking mechanism is. Yeah, what the mechanism is for that. Because whenever I see an outcome, but we don't know the mechanism, I kind of get the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah. We'll get back to talking to Layne in 1 minute, but first I need to tell you about Maui Nui. Maui Nui venison brings the healthiest red meat on the planet direct to your door. No one accidentally hits their protein goals, and if you're in a constant state of travel or being busy, their venison sticks make it unbelievably easy and tasty to hit your protein target every day. Not only do they provide the most nutrient-dense and protein-dense red meat available, they are the only stress-free, 100% wild-harvested red meat on the market. It's an operation that is one of its kind in the world. It's actively combating the environmental destruction caused by Maui's axis deer overpopulation, which literally looks like wildfire from a helicopter. So by eating meat, you are helping the environment. How about that? Get the healthiest red meat on the planet delivered direct to your door and get 20% off your first order by going to the link in the show notes below or heading to mauinuivenison.com/modernwisdom and using the code modernwisdom at checkout. That's MAUINUI venison.com/modernwisdom and modernwisdom at checkout. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip, you will love the full-length 2-hour-long podcast with Layne, which is available right here.